In the shadow of conquest, an empire unlike any other was being forged. But this wasn't just a story of swords and armies. It was the story of how Genghis Khan, a man born in the harsh steppes, built a society that would change the world forever. The battlefields fell silent, but a new, more complex challenge arose: how to rule over the largest contiguous land empire in history. The answer begins with a legend, a code of laws so sacred it was whispered about for centuries, the Yassa. Popular history paints it as a grand written constitution, a single book of ironclad rules. But the reality is far more intriguing. No complete original text of the Yassa has ever been found. What we know comes from scattered historical accounts, often written by outsiders. It was less a single book and more a collection of decrees, traditions, and military regulations passed down orally. So what was in it? The principles were revolutionary. It demanded absolute loyalty to the Khan, but it also forbade theft, adultery, and lying. It established rules for the military, for hunting, and even for hygiene, like banning urination in rivers. The punishment for breaking these rules was often severe, sometimes death. But the Yassa wasn't just about punishment. It was about creating order from chaos, uniting disparate nomadic tribes under a single predictable system. It was the bedrock upon which the Mongol Empire was built, a blend of ancient tradition and practical governance, even if its true form remains shrouded in myth. Beyond law, Genghis Khan understood the power of faith. In an age of brutal religious warfare, his policy was astonishingly modern. Tolerance. He wasn't motivated by a modern sense of pluralism, but by pragmatism. He believed all religions held some truth, and that powerful shamans, holy men, and priests from every faith could pray for his success and long life. He saw holy men as tax-exempt, not as a special privilege, but because their job was to pray for the empire's well-being. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and Taoists found a level of freedom within the Mongol lands that was unimaginable elsewhere. This policy didn't just prevent religious uprisings. It actively drew talented and educated people from across the known world into the service of the empire. With peace and order came the lifeblood of any great civilization: trade. Genghis Khan knew that wealth didn't just come from plunder, but from the free flow of goods and ideas. The Silk Road, a treacherous network of paths for centuries, was reborn under his rule. He declared merchants and their caravans to be protected assets of the empire. He punished bandits with ruthless efficiency, making the roads safer than they had been in generations. A common saying emerged that a maiden carrying a nugget of gold could travel from one end of the empire to the other without fear, while an exaggeration it captures the essence of the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace. This newfound security supercharged trade between East and West, leading to an unprecedented exchange of goods like silk and spices, but also technology, culture, and knowledge. But how do you manage an empire that stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe? How do you send a message from the capital in Karakorum to a general in Persia? The answer was an invention of pure logistical genius, the yam. This was the Mongol Pony Express, a vast and sophisticated postal relay system. Stations were set up every 25 to 30 miles, each stocked with fresh horses, food, and lodging for official messengers. These riders carried a pesa, a metal tablet that gave them authority to demand fresh mounts and supplies. allowing them to travel up to 200 miles a day. This network was the empire's nervous system. It transmitted military intelligence, government decrees, and reports from distant governors with incredible speed, binding the vast, sprawling territories together and allowing the Khan to rule effectively from the center. To fund this massive infrastructure, Genghis Khan needed a stable source of revenue. He moved beyond simple tribute and looting, instituting rational tax reforms. The first step was to know who and what he was ruling, so he ordered a comprehensive census across his new lands. This wasn't just a head count. Scribes recorded the number of households, men of military age, artisans, and livestock. This data allowed for a more predictable and organized system of taxation, replacing the chaotic and often brutal extortion of the past. While taxes were still heavy, the system was more regular and less arbitrary, providing the financial backbone for the army, the administration, and the yam system. Governing conquered peoples, many of whom were more civilized than the Mongols themselves, was a delicate art. Genghis Khan's approach was ruthlessly practical. He would often massacre the aristocracy of a conquered city to eliminate any future leadership for a rebellion. But he actively sought out and saved artisans, engineers, scholars, and administrators. He knew he needed their skills to run his empire. This led to the creation of a truly multicultural imperial court. Genghis Khan, himself illiterate, surrounded himself with men of talent regardless of their origin. Uyghur scribes were brought in to adapt their script for the Mongolian language, giving the empire a written form for the first time. Chinese siege engineers, Persian administrators, and foreign doctors all found high positions in his government. Translators were essential, becoming powerful figures who bridged the gap between the Mongol rulers and their diverse subjects. This meritocratic approach, where skill mattered more than ethnicity or creed, was a key ingredient in the empire's success. It created a dynamic and innovative administration capable of managing a global empire. Finally, there was diplomacy. Genghis Khan's view of the world was simple. There was the Mongol realm, and there was everyone else who had not yet submitted. His diplomatic messages were direct and unambiguous. Envoys were sent to foreign rulers with a clear choice: submit to the great Khan and enjoy peace and prosperity as part of his world empire, or resist and face total annihilation. He held the role of an ambassador as sacred. To harm a Mongol envoy was to declare war and invite the full, unstoppable wrath of his armies. The infamous case of the Khwarezmian Empire, which executed his ambassadors, led to a campaign of such devastation that it became a cautionary tale across Asia and Europe. For Genghis Khan, diplomacy wasn't about negotiation between equals. It was a formal demand for surrender, the final warning before the storm. So when we look back at Genghis Khan, we see more than a conqueror. We see an architect of a new world order. Through the principles of the Yassa, he created unity. Through religious tolerance, he harnessed the power of faith. By protecting trade and building the yam, he connected the world. And by creating a meritocratic, multicultural administration, he built a government that could manage it all. The Mongol Empire was born of the sword, but it was sustained by an extraordinary vision of law, communication, and order that left an indelible mark on history. Thank you for watching. If you want to explore more hidden stories from the pages of history, make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.